Okay, let's take a look at my solution. So, well, for my part, and remember, we are creating a function that takes a year, a month, and then a list or a group of the data frames. And for each of the data frame, and we are expecting there should be a trip start, trip start, and then pick up latitude and pick up longitude. Okay, and then well for the color list, I'm creating a list of 5 colors, and that's more than enough because we only have 4 data sets. And then, when for entry in the arcs, so well for each of the entry, and this means that is a data frame. So for that data frame, I'm gonna grab the pick up the latitude and pick up longitude, and using the specified year and month. So you have to use the year to be this year and the month to be this month. Okay, and after that, we want to do the same thing. Well, we want to visualize each of the pair of the longitude and the latitude with a specific color. And then how do we pick this color? And that's the same thing. We already defined the color list, and then we have a integer that is a color count. So the color count started from 0, and after we finish visiting one data frame, and then we are going to increase the color count by 1, so we move on to the next color. Okay, and then excuse me, and then we have this function, and say if you want to use this function to visualize all the 4 data frames, and then we can do that, and it will be a little bit messy. Or if you want to do a comparison of only 2 companies, and you can also do that. And for this one, you see for the green company, the Benny Jonah, in the June of the 2013, all this company goes to the center, goes to the midtown of the Chicago. And however, for the blue company, which is I think the blue company should be the NW Cap, and the NW Cap, they don't go to the downtown Chicago at all, and then they mainly do their business on the north and the northwest part of Chicago. Well, and before we move on, here is a small trick. Well, and for the star arcs, so for this star, it means that, well, it reminds Python that this parameter should be unpacked. Okay, and then for the arcs, well, you can actually name it anything you want to. And for example, I change it to the taxi DFs. And then, well, that's okay. And then we also have to change the taxi DFs here. So arcs is really a name. Well, but in the convention of Python community, and then we usually use the arc instead of a different name. But if there is a good reason you do want to name arc something different, and go ahead, you can do that. Okay, so let me revert that back. And let's move on. Well, and for the arcs, well, it can be considered as a one-dimensional sequence, a sequence of many data types. Well, and in another scenario, if you want even more flexibility, and then you can define the additional arguments in a as a dictionary. Okay, let me say it again. Well, for the arcs, that is a sequence of the any number of the items. Well, if you want to have even higher flexibility, and then you can take not a sequence, you can take a dictionary, and that's also possible, and that is called kwargs. And for the kwargs, and remember, there should be 2 stars before the kwargs. Okay, and then we'll say we define a function of the report status. So for this report status, and we are taking nothing but kwargs. Okay, and for this kwargs, and now, well, this will be a key value pair, which is a dictionary. So I'm taking that dictionary, and in this dictionary, I'm gonna do a iteration to break this dictionary to key value pairs. And then for each key value pair, I'm gonna print them out. Okay, so it seems that for this one, it's going to be super easy. We are just printing the items in a dictionary, right? So let's see how we can do that. And say, well, if we want to call a function like this. So this is report status, and then we are sending 3 parameters. So that is name equals Professor X, and affiliation equals the X-Man, and then status is alive. So we are sending 3 parameters, and then they will be sent to kwargs. And then in the kwargs, we are going to take each key value pair, and then we are going to print each of the key value pair. And of course, we are going to have a begin report and then the end report. So this will be the information printed for the first function cal. We are going to say the name is Professor X and the affiliation is X-Men and the status is alive. Okay, so well, we are in this way, we are sending a bunch of the parameters. Well, but for each of the parameter, we can name them and say we have the name and affiliation and the status. And if you want to have even more arguments, and for example, for the storm, and then I'm also creating a creator, which is the creator of this character, and then I can also send that. So this will be the print information for the storm. So well, it doesn't matter how many parameters we are sending, as long as we are using the kwargs to take that, and then we are taking all the parameters as the key value pairs. Okay, so let's see the next exercise. Oops, I'm showing you the key again. Okay, for this one, I want to do a search. Well, this is going to be a super flexible search, and that is after loading the California cities, and then I want to do a search using many criteria. And for each of the criteria, I'm trying to put them together into a dictionary. For example, a dictionary like this. So, well, I'm saying I'm searching for the cities, and for those cities, they should have the latitude greater than 40. So latitude will be the column name, and then I'm using the greater than to tell, well, I'm searching for the cities with the latitude higher than 40, and then the longitude smaller than 120. Okay, those are two parameters, and then, well, or those are two searching criteria, and I put them together into a dictionary, and then I want to send the kwargs 1 as a parameter to this function cal. So that is the find entries, and then the first parameter is the cities, which is a data frame, and the second one will be a key value pairs of many search criteria. Okay, and then let's do another one. So that is, well, we have one criteria. The area water percentage should be greater than 40, and then for the population total should be smaller than 10,000, and for the population total it's greater than 5,000. Okay, so I'm packing three search criteria together into one kwargs, and then I'm just putting a function cal like this. The first parameter should be a data frame, and the second parameter should be a kwargs, a group of the search criteria. Okay, so go ahead and try to finish this function definition. And for the search criteria, you want to separate that into two parts. So for this part, you want to do a split by a space, and the first part will be a column name, and the second part should be greater than, smaller than, or equals. Okay, so go ahead and try to fill in the code here, and I'm gonna require you guys to pause this video, and in 5 seconds I'm gonna start to talk about my solutions. Okay, so go ahead and pause your video and start coding. Okay, well, let's see how we can do that. Well, we know there's going to be a kwargs, and then we are going to use this for loop. So we are going to break this kwargs into the key value pairs. So, remember, what are the keys? For the keys, that will be a string. So this string will contain two parts, that is a column name and then greater than or smaller than or equals, right? So we first want to do a split. So we are splitting the key into two parts, and then for the column name, and that is the first part, and then for the comparison, how we are going to do the comparison, and that will be the second part. And we want to check if the comparison is greater than. If it is greater than, and then we want to create a mask. So this mask will only do the search on that column using the criteria specified. So if it is greater than, and then I'm creating a mask grabbing the current column, and it should be greater than the value. So this mask will be a series of the true or false. Okay, and similarly, if it is smaller than, and again I'm grabbing that column, and this column and the comparison will be smaller than the value, or it is a column equals to that value. Okay, and remember that is only one mask. Well, for each of the search criteria, and I'm going to create one mask. So I'm creating a mask for the latitude greater than 40. So that is one mask. And then for the longitude smaller than negative 120, that is another mask. Okay, so now in this case, I have two masks. And what do? I want to do an AND because I'm only keeping the entries when the mask 1 is a true and mask 2 is also a true, right? So eventually I want to visit all the masks, and then I'm going to put the one mask on the mask another mask, and then on another mask. Depending on how many masks do I have, I'm going to put all the masks together. And eventually, if they are all true, and then I'm going to have a true, so that is the entry I'm keeping. Okay, well, to do that, I'm going to start from the first mask, and then for each, and I'm assigning the first mask to be the final mask. And then after that, for each of the masks I'm visiting, I'm doing a final mask and the current mask. So eventually, after we have visited and then put together all the masks, and then we do have a final mask, and then I'm applying this final mask to the data frame, so I got the entries which will satisfy all the searching criteria. Okay, so well, those are the cities that have the latitude greater than 40, and at the same time the longitude smaller than 120. Or in this case, I'm putting three search criteria together. So on the fly, when I'm calling this function, this function will put three masks together, and then eventually those are only two cities satisfy my three search criteria. Okay, so let's do a very quick sum up. Well, remember when you are doing the functions, the number one goal should be this function can be used here in this problem, in this project, and then later we may want to use that in another case, in another project. So this means to make a function super useful. We don't want this function to only solve one problem. We want this function to be able to solve a group or a type of the problems. And to do that, and sometimes we do want to use the trick of the arcs, which will be a sequence of the objects, or even stronger, even more flexible, we can use the kwargs, and then we can really put together a lot of the parameters and then send them to a function definition. And remember, for the arcs and the kwargs, they are just names. If you want to name arcs or kwargs differently, you can do that, but make sure you are giving them a meaningful name, because for arcs and kwargs, they are kind of conventional in the Python community. Okay, so that's it for today, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.